The Eye and Team. As Buffy begins to work with the Initiative, troubling secrets are revealed.
Yeah, she begins. It ends as soon as it starts. But whatever, that's in my wrap-up. We open with Willow, seemingly performing a spell, but it turns out that she's just playing cards with Xander and Anya.
Well, she's still praying to some god or whatever, so it demonstrates that no level of recklessness with magic is beneath her.
Anya doesn't understand the point of the game, but what time period is she originally from?
I don't know, but I had that question too. Like, yeah, she was a demon for a long time or whatever, but she was still living on Earth. She was still doing things with people.
Probably in a time before they had modern technology, so they had to pass the time doing something.
Yeah. Xander reveals that he is now selling boost bars, which Willow says are gross.
Are boost bars a real thing?
They are, but apparently they are not the same ones in the show.
They discuss Riley and Buffy and their involvement with the Initiative,
pointing out that they still don't know much about them.
And then we cut to Buffy fighting a bunch of the commandos.
Professor Walsh suddenly pops out and is distressed that the commandos were tracking Buffy for so long, and she managed to beat them quickly and easily.
She said it took 40 minutes for them to find her. What was she doing?
Yeah, we've seen that they have high-tech tracking equipment and, thermal readings and all this crap, but somehow this dumb girl that doesn't know what she's doing managed to evade them for that long. They must be really good.
Riley is impressed / smitten, but Walsh seems to be concerned. The next bright 90s day, because of that music,
Buffy brags about how it went to Willow in the middle of a crowded campus cafeteria.
Which is probably fine. I mean, we've seen the commandos themselves walk around in broad daylight. They probably just think they're operating in secret, but everyone just knows what's going on.
Yeah, based on what we see later in the episode, that would make sense. They mentioned that they haven't spent much time together lately, and that they're going to hang out at the Bronze later.
Buffy says she wouldn't miss it, but I was guessing that she would probably miss it.
Buffy watches Riley going through the food line, and Willow mopes that she is the only one alone. Didn't we get that storyline already?
Giles goes to visit Spike in his new crypt, and Spike is ostensibly sleeping, but he's in full combat boots and everything, so I didn't really buy that.
Giles pays Spike what he owes him from the last episode, and I'm surprised they actually brought that up.
And this scene means that after Spike crashed his car while being chased by 2 Initiative vehicles, nothing happened, which was the exact thing I was afraid of.
Giles tries to ask Spike if he's interested in helping them fight demons, now that he knows that's something he can do, but Spike tells him to piss off and not come back. Buffy and Riley talk, and she says she's ready. So Riley shows her his shaft, and she rides it all the way down. And then she says,
You said it was big. You told me, but you never said it was huge.
Don't like to brag.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So they're underground, but that warehouse area has exit doors, and it looks like there's daylight peeking through some spots. So are they underground or not?
Maybe it's a hillside.
But it would have to be right next to the house, because the elevator's in the house.
Yeah, maybe that house is on the very edge of the inhabited area.
Of a cliff?
Walsh gives Buffy a visitor's pass and classified documents to read.
And then she gives her a tour, including looking down into a pit of a science team that modifies demon behavior.
And I think it's stupid that back when Buffy learned that the Initiative referred to demons as humanoid subterrestrials, a name that doesn't really make sense in the first place, she jokingly abbreviated it to HSTs, and that just happened to be the actual thing that they say. And Walsh says they are reconditioning HSTs to make them no longer a threat. And Buffy has to cover up when she accidentally says she knows something about that, instead of just mentioning Spike, so they can capture him again.
Which they should have, again, after he crashed Giles' car. But I'm not going to bring that up again.
Walsh tries to show Buffy some weapons, but as usual, she is not paying attention and just messing around with stuff. And she tells Buffy the research area is highly restricted, before giving her a security card and a pager.
Meanwhile, Tara is showing Willow a magical gem and wants to hang out, but Willow says she already has plans, which continues to fracture Tara's incredibly low self-esteem.
We see Walsh entering a room labeled 314.
She is checking out a subject on the table that she calls Adam, who looks like a Frankenstein monster type deal.
And she says it's almost time for him to wake up.
Later at the Bronze, Willow, Xander, and Anya are still waiting for Buffy, who finally arrives with Riley and the other commandos for some reason.
And they mention Xander being so focused on selling his boost bars, and I thought that was going to turn into its own subplot, but it doesn't really go anywhere.
Willow is bummed that 15 other people unexpectedly showed up and says she could have invited someone if she had known.
Buffy tries to ask who that someone is, but Willow pulls some evasive maneuvers and changes the subject to the initiative.
And I think I brought this up last episode, but there's no reason why she needs to hide Tara.
Yeah, I still wonder where the hell that is going, or if it's going anywhere. She asks if Buffy is jumping ahead with the initiative and asks questions that Buffy doesn't know the answers to, bringing up what Ethan Rayne said about 314.
And then Buffy and all the commandos get paged at the same time very loudly and very conspicuously, and all run out together in one big group, shouting initiative stuff, but saying they can't let anyone know about the initiative.
They meet with Walsh, who tells them they're going out to capture a demon with bone skewers that come out of its wrists. And I was having PTSD to when I watched X-Men The Last Stand. I know I used that clip in something else, I can't remember what, but yeah, it's so dumb.
I think
I used it in an earlier Buffy episode.
I think it was your montage of best movies of all time. So they're getting briefed in this multi-million-dollar military government underground installation on an overhead projector, which kind of broke the suspension of disbelief for me. That's all I could focus on.
And I like how everything they do is just kind of in the middle of this big open area. They don't have rooms they can go to, apparently.
Yeah, just one big-ass warehouse that is supposed to be underground, but really isn't underground.
Buffy keeps asking questions, some of which are not bad questions, but she asks in a very out-of-place college girl kind of way, and says she has decided not to wear camouflage because she doesn't feel like it.
The doctor briefing everybody says they can't damage the demon's arms because they want to study its defense mechanisms intact.
Willow shows up at Tara's, mentioning how she was abandoned by Buffy, and they go inside to do something.
I assumed magic and stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
On patrol with the commandos, Buffy's pulling her regular routine of not really paying attention, making dumb jokes, and trying to start small talk. And I was glad when Riley pointed out that none of that served the serious nature of why they were out there.
Meanwhile, Riley's other lame friends are complaining about how Riley likes Buffy better than them.
God, this show.
And they spot Spike coming back from a grocery run and try to attack him, and he manages to fight them back without activating his chip, somehow.
But as he's fleeing, they shoot him with a tracker.
They try to contact Riley, but their high-tech comm equipment is total shit, which I thought was going to have some kind of reason for why that happened, but it was never explained. One of the demons pops out, and Riley and Buffy go into action together, which is awkwardly intercut with Riley and Buffy going into action together.
I said it was a creative, if odd, mashup. And even odder was Walsh watching them bang.
Yeah.
I have something about that in my wrap-up.
Okay. The next day, Xander tries to sell his boost bars to Giles when Spike suddenly busts in, saying the commandos have been chasing him around. Apparently for at least probably 8 hours or something.
Well, it took him 40 minutes to find Buffy, and Spike is actually competent, so it would probably take them a couple weeks to find him.
Yeah, that's true.
The gang is confused as to why they should help Spike, especially since he told them to all piss off earlier in this episode, and he eventually ends up giving Giles some of his money back, which I thought was funny.
Buffy wakes up and is surprised to find that everything with Riley is still fine. An alarm goes off to remind him to take his vitamins, because apparently a highly trained soldier can't remember to do something so simple on his own, even when they're sitting right next to his bed.
I was wondering, it made it seem like the vitamins were going to be something else.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
Which did not happen in this episode, but I wonder if that's going to come back later.
Yeah, maybe. And when Buffy tries to question him about the initiative in 314, he says he is a good soldier and just follows orders.
And then they're interrupted by a phone call from Walsh, probably calling to ask them to bang again so she can watch.
When Riley gets down into the facility, he looks through the window into the super top secret research area and sees the door labeled 314.
Walsh tells him he's in charge of the team responsible for recapturing Spike, and after he leaves, she goes into the restricted area and shares her concerns about Buffy, saying she's a liability and they need to move to the contingency plan.
Giles operates on Spike, and Xander identifies the object in his back as a tracker, using his military knowledge. But Giles says it's going to take some work to get it out.
Meanwhile, Buffy apologizes to Willow about bailing at the Bronze earlier when she's paged again. And after she leaves, Giles calls for Willow's help.
Walsh tells Buffy they're tracking a low-level demon through the sewers, and she needs her to do some solo recon. And she says those demons sometimes just turn out to be raccoons. And it didn't sound like she was joking, so my confidence in their capabilities just keeps going up and up.
Military spending. Raccoon reconnaissance. $20 million.
And she gives Buffy a gun and a camera so she can monitor her progress.
And heart rate. When Buffy says she has some questions about the purpose of the initiative, Walsh says they can have a talk when she gets back.
And at one point, Buffy says that danger is her birthright, which made me wonder how much Walsh has questioned Buffy about being the Slayer. There are a ton of questions that I still have about that, and I've seen the show from the beginning, so I would think Walsh would want to know some of those answers before trusting Buffy so much.
And we've seen Walsh is super inquisitive and wants to know all the facts before taking action.
Right.
Back at Giles' house, Willow is performing a spell to ionize the atmosphere around the gang to disrupt Spike's tracking signal. And seeing as how Willow's spells go, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, especially if it involved me personally and my safety.
Yeah, and of course it causes all the light bulbs in the area to explode and everyone's hair to stand up. Probably gave them all cancer too. And wouldn't it be easier just to give Spike to the initiative?
Yes. The commandos lose their signal, so they change their clothes. So where do they actually do that? Did they just find a spot in the woods and change clothes?
Yeah, did they have stuff on them, or did they have to go all the way back and then come back here? Buffy tracks her target, which she recognizes as the demons that they were working on at the facility, which is portrayed as if it should be suspicious, but there's no reason there couldn't be more of those demons around.
And didn't Spike just walk away from the initiative before? There's nothing indicating other demons don't just break out too.
Yeah.
Suddenly her route of escape is cut off, and her weapon turns out to be useless.
And while Buffy fights the demons, Walsh watches and calmly drinks coffee.
And the heartbeat monitor flatlines, meaning Buffy is surely dead.
But before that, I noticed that Buffy's heartbeat was remarkably steady during the battle.
She's the Slayer. Giles has managed to remove Spike's tracker right as the commando signal clears up, and the gang manages to flush it before the commandos can locate the source.
And that tracker was pretty dang big to be something that you're going to shoot into somebody and expect it not to get damaged or anything.
And where was it? His shoulder blade, right?
I don't know, somewhere in his back. Yeah, I mean...
It looked long enough to potentially have reached from the back all the way to the front of his body.
I don't know about that, but...
Depending on where it went in.
Yeah, I mean, Giles had to get in there to dig it out and everything, and he said he was having trouble.
We cut back to Buffy, who is not dead, and she beats up the demon right as Riley returns to the initiative.
He tells Walsh that Spike ditched his tracker, but Walsh quickly changes the topic of conversation to Buffy, saying that Buffy wanted to go out on her own and ended up getting killed.
And her sudden display of emotion was weird and made it super obvious she was hiding something, but Riley is just too focused on Buffy being dead.
But Buffy suddenly shows up on the cameras again and confronts Walsh, saying she's going to regret trying to take her out before she destroys the camera.
$20,000, Walsh said that thing cost.
And Riley walks away, ignoring Walsh's pleas.
Back at Giles' house, Spike says the reason he's staying in Sunnydale is because the initiative has to reverse what they did to him. And Giles counters with the fact that it is not safe for him to stay, before Buffy dramatically enters and says it's not safe for any of them, not asking why Spike is there again.
In room 314, Walsh talks to the Frankenstein thing, and she spouts out some extremely cartoon villain dialogue.
It was for the greater good. You'll see that.
She's losing her grip on good writing, saying that Adam will take care of Buffy, and Riley will come around, and if he doesn't, they'll take care of him too.
Then a bone skewer suddenly pokes through her chest. Adam has awakened.
And he managed to get up and off that table completely silently, which was really impressive. I wonder if that's one of his abilities.
The I in team. Overall?
So Spike is choosing to stay in Sunnydale in the hopes that he can get his procedure reversed. But why is he not choosing to keep a low profile? He knows the initiative is out there and actively hunting him, but he doesn't seem to be taking any action to protect himself. The fact that they just happened to see him walking around after he went grocery shopping was really dumb on his part.
Yeah, remember back when he first showed up and he was such a big threat and so capable with everything, and now he's just some random idiot.
It was nice that someone called Buffy out for being so nonchalant about patrolling and how it actually puts everyone in danger, because Buffy regularly patrols with other members of the gang and never actually seems to consider their safety. It's more, well, when the monster pops out, I'll be totally reactionary and you'll hopefully be out of the way. And it just happens to happen that way every time, which is frustrating. Walsh turning against Buffy was pretty expected since they operate so differently, and she was watching Buffy and Riley bang. So she's got cameras all spread out in that house, or just in Riley's bedroom pointing at his bed. And I initially thought those monitors were in an enclosed room, but we see later they're out in the open. So were people watching Walsh watching those two bang? That's pretty awkward. And if these commandos are getting paged constantly, as we saw in this episode, how do they have any time for their front as college students? Are they still actually getting an education? We saw Riley grading a bunch of papers and whatnot, and Walsh actually teaches a class. So I think yes, that doesn't really make sense, seeing as how they're paged every 5 seconds. And we saw a bunch of dudes in that briefing. So would there be a lecture hall where all of a sudden 25 people start going beep, 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 and they all stand up and have to walk out of the room? Sorry, this episode made me have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Walsh getting impaled was unexpected, and I wonder if she's truly out of commission, because we've seen characters come back in the next episode saying, oh, I'm glad I'm okay, but I'm not going to explain how I'm okay.
Maybe she'll come back as Eve in the next episode.
Who the hell is Eve?
Because Adam.
Oh, I don't really know that much about ancient Greek mythology. It would be kind of a bummer if she was out of the show, because she's a strong character, and she hasn't interacted much with the main cast outside of Buffy, but the few times she did,
she shot them down.
I enjoyed those interactions.
Yes.
And if Adam is going to become a big antagonist, I hope he has something other than just being the monster that Walsh made. I hope he has a backstory that actually matters, maybe is related to other stuff. I don't know, I hope there's good writing going on. I also thought it's funny that the secret restricted research area door has a big old window on it that people can just look through like Riley was doing. And I was just joking in whatever episode that was when I compared the initiative to the plot of Doom, but the fact that they're actually doing that, oh man. We didn't really get anything on Buffy joining the initiative. I thought that was going to be something, but it's over as soon as it starts. By the end of the episode, she's totally out. It would have been nice to explore her not fitting in and how she and the rest of the commandos coped with everything, but it was just thrown out as soon as it started. Missed opportunity. We also lost a lot of the humor that the show has been relying on heavily recently, which was kind of a bummer because the humor has been pretty good. This episode pushed forward plot points, but I didn't think it was particularly good. I gave it a C-.
I gave it a C. I agree that this episode was not as good as the few that we've had preceding it, and the lack of humor was partially the reason for that. Like you said, it did advance a lot of plot points, but a lot of that didn't really make sense, and it feels odd that it took so long to get to the main plotline of this season, and now that they're here, they're kind of skipping ahead a lot, it feels like. Which is good in a way. I mean, I'd rather have that than have them linger on things way too long like they did in some previous seasons. I am intrigued with the developments with the initiative. Again, it doesn't really make sense, but I hope at least Riley's friends will get killed soon. That's what I want to see. I still really don't like them. They're really irritating. And the show's attempts to portray these characters as being military disciplined really doesn't work. Xander's subplot with the boost bars didn't go anywhere.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that.
And I mean, I wonder if that's going to come up later, but I doubt it. And really, the only humor we got in the episode was the stuff with Anya, but she was barely in the episode, and none of that mattered. Everything with Spike is still completely illogical on the characters' parts, especially when they know at least the basics of what the initiative is at this point. There's no reason for them not to give Spike over. And they didn't seem to even think about what would happen if the initiative found out that they were working with Spike and trying to help him in some way. And if they asked, why are you helping Spike? What was their answer going to be? He gave me $200. I'm intrigued to see what happens with Adam. I note that he woke up in the secret area So is he going to know how to get out? Is the next person that goes in going to be like, oh shit, and then just get killed too? How is that going to go? I guess we'll find out.
Maybe the doors only lock from the outside, so we can just push on the bar and walk out. Secure military installation. $40 billion.
I still want to see what Ethan Rayne's concerns, how they actually tie in with everything, because all he knew was demons were worried about 314. But I don't know. So far I don't see how that's going to make sense. And how would they know that the number is 314? Are they somehow psychically linked to Adam or something like that? Willow hiding Tara is weird. I really wonder how they're going to explain that. I'm assuming they probably won't, and they'll just say, oh, well, I didn't feel like she'd fit in, so I didn't mention her. Something stupid like that. I'm glad that Buffy and Riley's relationship, at least, didn't have some kind of stupid drama in this episode. It actually made sense, and seems like just a normal relationship, which is the first time that we've really had that with Buffy in this entire show. So, not a great episode, but at least it moved things forward, which honestly right now I'm going to count as a plus.